we started this trend last week. We said each week now we're going to go through and look at one big non-conference game, a little way too early preview, if you will, and we've come to Kentucky-Louisville. Now, last week we were going to do Kentucky-St. John's, but Max alerted me and said, wait a second. Kentucky's got so many big non-conference games out there. Why don't we just go ahead and do one of the first ones on the list, and we'll get to St. John's eventually, which I said, you know what, Max? You're brilliant. You're a brilliant man. And, I mean, come on. Are you telling me that our audience would like to hear us talk about Kentucky-Louisville? I mean, come on. It's a no-brainer. Max, the Cats and the Cardinals, two teams that, as we mentioned, two of the highest national championship odds out there, and they are going to meet up. By the way, I didn't give you the mention here. Louisville plus 2,000 right now on the odds. So Kentucky-Louisville, Max, who's going to win? Take your pick right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, who's going to win? When? When is this, Blake? This is week 2. This is the start of week 2. Okay, this is Tuesday night of the second week of the season, November 11th. You're just getting started. You probably had a few, maybe a handful of good non-conference games in week 1, little week 1 season openers, some good ones. There's a good Florida game, but this is going to be one of the biggest of the whole non-conference, coming right on Tuesday night of week 2. This is at Louisville, folks. All right, not neutral. This is at the Yum Center. So I just wanted to set that stage. That's what to expect, Blake. We've watched 1 week of hoops. We're excited, and now boom, first big time Tuesday, we get this matchup.
Yeah, we do. And as we said, it's going to be quite an outstanding matchup when you look at it from that standpoint. I think, if we turn our focus to just, the setup here, I think clearly you talk about there's two things that stand out when I'm looking at this graphic here, and that is the visual for the two freshmen for Louisville, right? And I think that is, kind of something. If we're looking at this matchup, these are two guys that are going to be expected to have a big role. We'll talk about the older guys in a second, but I mean, I think just the play of the freshmen is going to be a big part of this. And the same goes for Kentucky, even though, Jasper Johnson's not on there. Like we're talking about, this is because of where this sits in the season, this will give you a better idea of kind of, all right, where are these guys at? What exactly their roles are going to be? I know we talked about Brown. I mean, he is just, come on. This dude is just a stud. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to see this game. And I know Brian's like, hey, this game's way too early in the season. And I would somewhat agree with that. You'd like to see this played maybe a little bit later, but still, it gives you a good idea of where things stand kind of this early.
Yeah, just to set the stage also, this was a really nice game last year. It was later in the season. This game last year was in Rupp, and it was on Saturday, December 14th. So we were a month and a week into the season on a Saturday. And the pregame odds of that was Kentucky minus 9.5 with a total of 160. So this was going to be a high scoring, probably pretty comfortable Kentucky game. Kentucky ends up winning 93-85. And Blake, if you remember, that was the Lamont Butler game when he missed the previous 2 games. We didn't know what his status was. He comes back. He goes 6 of 6 from 3, career high 33 points. And that was a tough game for James Scott, Louisville's big man. He fouled out in 12 minutes. Chucky Hepburn also ended up fouling out for Louisville. And that win for the Cats now, let's see, what is it? Yeah, a 10-2 series run. So the last 12 games that these two have played, Kentucky's won 10 of them. And that leads us here to this year where Torvik is projecting. And now we can actually kind of use this because we know Vegas just pulls the odds right from analytics. And this is only going to be week 2, so not much is going to change. Torvik's projecting Louisville 82, Kentucky 78. So a line of Louisville minus 4-ish, total right around 160 again.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people. I just dropped my cup, by the way. Guess what? It's steel and everything's fine. Game time sidekicks. But so I saw a lot of people kind of talking about this Torvik line here and kind of what the projection looks like, right? And being a little bit maybe surprised that that's where it would be. But I get it from a Kentucky fan standpoint, but also, again, don't want to discount the idea that, as we said, Louisville is a team that is on paper for a lot of people a top 10 team as well. And so I think that it's just simply location plays a factor, those kind of things. And so I think it's going to be one where, again, we know the rivalry and all this other stuff, but I think just from a basketball standpoint, you are looking at this team that Pat Kelsey has put together and feeling like, okay, obviously with Brown, I mean, he is, he is a game-changing type player. And then when you talk about these other guys that we've kind of seen, Pryor's coming off of, what was the injury? I know I should know this, but like
I
it
believe
all
it was a
runs
knee.
together. So he's coming off of that. And then, you've got obviously adding a Ryan Conwell to the mix and those kind of things. I just think you're looking at a Louisville team here. If you go even further, by the way, I know we just put the starting fives up here, but
Right.
if you're going even further, that's where you're looking at the depth and what they can do. It's a deep team, the same we talked about with Kentucky. I mean, it's a deep kind of roster, and I think that's where we always say early in the season, you see coaches kind of work with the rotations a little bit, and you kind of see what the right fit's going to be. I think you'll see a lot of that on the Louisville side, but I think you'll see a lot of that on the Kentucky side too, because as we said, there are players that are not on the screen here that we know could potentially just be game changers for Kentucky, and so I think that's the thing to me is I'm most curious to see how these rotations are looking, but when these guys play this game at this time because it is this early in the season.
Yeah, not on the screen here for the Cats. You in the backcourt, you've got Colin Chandler and the freshman Jasper Johnson, who are going to make a splash. You also have Trent Noah, whether he's kind of positionless though at his size. You've got Cam Williams, who's one of our favorite breakout candidates, along with Braden Hawthorne, freshman. You've got one half of the Vitches with Andrija Jelovich, Malachi Moreno, and Reese Potter. And then if JQ is going to be healthy, that's a major impact on this game specifically since it's week 2, right? What's that going to look like? Is he going to be in his ramping up to speed, light minutes and everything, or is he going to be good to go? That's a major impact on this game. So that's who's not on the screen for the Cats. You're going to say something?
No, go ahead.
And I was just going to say for Louisville, in behind the freshman Brown, you've got Adrian Woolley, who almost was a tied 6'5" guard that played last year at Kennesaw, knockdown shooter. You've also got Kobe Rogers, and then kind of Louisville's Swiss Army knife, their glue guy, Javon Hadley. He'll find his way to 25 minutes. He'll find a way. And then behind Pryor, you've got Connie Ruths, who was the freshman last year, the stretch 4 freshman last year. And then Ali Khalifa, who we didn't have the pleasure of watching last year, got cleared. So that's kind of the depth that's not on the screen for both. Both teams have depth, and both teams have quality of depth.
So the update Kelsey gave on Pryor, which I was going to bring up quickly, here's what he said. This was actually a couple days ago. So yeah, it was the ACL. But Pat Kelsey said, quote, great. From medical standpoint, he's on pace, probably even ahead of schedule. You'd have to talk to Katie about that. I assume Katie's part of their medical team. Typically that's a 9 to 12 month thing, and he's exactly where he needs to be. So, I mean, again, I don't, you're not seeing a specific timeline, but I think that is why this is so important, because this game is played on November 11, and, it is so early in the season. So, obviously, it would be significant if he's not on the floor, but it does, like we said, I mean, he went out, when did he go down last year? He only played in
early
7 games, I think. So, yeah, so he would have went down last year in the end of November, I guess it was. So that would be about right. If he's ahead of schedule, he should be, you would think, good to go. So just a note on that.
Yeah. And so then just breaking down kind of Louisville shooting a little bit here, Blake. I think Louisville might be the best shooting team in the country. And that's saying something because of how much I like Alabama shooting. So just to compare the top shooters for each team, top volume shooters, Kentucky's top 3 shooters right now on the roster, and they have Jasper Johnson, who was 40% at the U19. So factor that in as well. Cam Williams made 56 last year. Jalen Lowe made 41, and Aberdeen 36. Let's assume all of them increase, right? But just still remember 56, 41, and 36. For Louisville, Isaac McNeely made 101. Ryan Conwell made 99, and Woolley made 63, all three of them above 41%. So just that's a very stark contrast there. And at the U19, Mikel Brown in 7 games shot 20 of 42 for 47.6% from three. So add that in as well. The volume of shooting difference, Blake, really stood out to me when I was breaking it down. You've got 3 different guys last year for Louisville who made at least 63s north of 41%. And you don't have a single player on Kentucky that made 60. That's a big difference.
Based on when this game is played, let's say we come out of this, win or lose, whoever. Who's the Kentucky player we're talking about most that maybe is not an obvious choice? So either there's a big storyline coming out of this game about one of these sort of Kentucky players, whether it's, man, this guy just kind of showed you what he's going to be. I feel like Oweh's, you can't pick Oweh. I mean, I feel like that's the easy choice. But of the other Kentucky players, let's say it's a Kentucky win or however you want to, position it. Who's the guy this early in the season with a game like this that we're talking about coming out of it?
I have X factors listed, so it's funny you asked for that.
All right.
My X factor for Kentucky's Cam Williams for exactly you couldn't have asked me at a better time. Exactly the time. I think Louisville is going to have the higher volume threes and at home. I mean, McNeely can get going high. Conwell can get going really quick. Even Pryor can shoot from outside. So Cam Williams from outside, being Kentucky's most proven three-point shooter so far, he's got to have a game and make up for that lack of volume, where we know, because even if you look at the matchup from last year, Blake, the 3-point numbers, I don't have them right in front of me, but I'm pretty sure Louisville shot like an unbelievable amount of threes. I only ended up making 14 of them, I'm pretty sure, but they shot a ton. Especially with it being at home at Louisville, I think Kentucky's going to need someone to knock down shots, and for me, that guy's Cam Williams.
Yeah, I like that choice because, as I mentioned, I think he is kind of that breakout superstar type guy. He's got all the tools, I think, and I feel like this may be kind of that point where if he comes out, has a big game, and you mentioned for the reasons where they need him to have a big game, that would be, I think, pretty significant moving forward in that scenario for Kentucky. What about your X factor for Louisville?
So my X factor for Louisville is the rim protection and foul rates, I guess you could call it, the rim protection and foul rates of Sananda Frew and Kashawn Pryor. Because I think Kentucky is going to have a sizable advantage here, a decent advantage in getting to the rim, downhill. Jalen Lowe, Mo D, Otega Oweh, pounding the rock inside. They're going to be relentless trying to get to the free throw line, like we've talked about before, Blake. And Pryor has decent foul per 40-minute numbers. He's been around like 2.9, 3.3 for the past 2 years. But how is Frew going to be, right? I mean, you're talking about Mikel Brown Jr. and Sananda Frew's first big-time college game. This is the first one they're going to play. Frew's not even in the U.S. right now. So, what does that look like if Mikel Brown Jr. picks up 3 fouls trying to keep Jalen Lowe in front of him, keep Otega Oweh in front of him? What does it look like for Sananda Frew if, he's trying to guard Garrison out on the perimeter, flying around, he gets a little bit tired, and he picks up 2-3 fouls. And now the Louisville Cardinal, the lineup out there is, Woolley, Conwell, McNeely, Hadley, and Khalifa. Well, now that's a much different. Now there's not much rim protection out there. Now you can see Kentucky get to the rim a little bit more. So my X factor for Louisville is that rim protection and staying out of foul trouble, because Louisville might have the better shooters, the higher volume shooters, but Kentucky's going to get to the rim pretty much as they want here.
Speaking of defensive elements, Kentucky finished top 20-ish last year in 3-point defense. So I think that's clearly something where wonder what it looks like with this particular team. Obviously, no Lamont Butler. That you have to mention that. We all remember the game he had last year against them, but defensively, I think that's something too. How do they guard in this kind of game? Like you mentioned, Louisville potentially being one of the best shooting teams out there. And so I think that's probably an early storyline. And I'm also going to bring up what Brian mentioned here too, and we haven't really said his name, but like I think this is clearly
Right.
something as well. Like it's the JQ effect. It is the what does it look like, in this game right here, and that's where like we'll know by then, hey, this guy's fully ready, he's good to go, and that obviously changes things in terms of as you're looking at rotations and his role and all that. And so like yeah, like there, and that's why we're having fun with this. It's July. This game is played in November, but like we're having fun with all these theories and possibilities. But it is kind of fun to look at and say, man, there are a lot of ways a game like this could play out. But what we do know is these are two top 10 type teams coming into the season. There's no question, just based on the odds and everything. So yeah, I mean it's going to be one of the biggest matchups of the season, which Louisville Kentucky always is a big matchup. But this is from just a national scale and looking ahead, like this is a huge game for both teams.
We'll also be able to tell pretty quickly, like, how big of a difference No Lamont Butler being the steady hand of the law, just kind of calming everything down and being, ultra consistent with the rock. What does that look like if, the place is going wild? McNeely just made a three, then Conwell made a three, then Mikel Brown Jr. hits it, heat check, and Kentucky's got to have a few clean, solid possessions with No Lamont Butler running the show. How does that look? There's going to be, I think it's great they're playing this, both teams. We'll be able to learn, is Frew ready for the big time starting five? Can he play 30 minutes a game? We'll learn with Mikel Brown. I know that one knock on Brown is that he doesn't get to the rim as much as some people would like. So, what happens if Mikel Brown's having an off night from outside and the rim rate's not there for Louisville? And, live and die by the three. What if they're kind of dying? What does Louisville turn to if the threes aren't falling? You're going to be able to learn so much in the second Tuesday of the year. This is fantastic.